Chapter 11. Cynthia and the Four Bears. Over the river and through the woods, Cynthia led her guest past her favorite spot to the place where work was to be done. There was a field of carrots, another of greens, and a third of strawberries, which had finished bearing fruit for the year. There, acting as natural as a bear with farming tools could, was Orso. He was taller than any man Phelan had ever seen and easily stronger. She made an immediate mental note not to irritate the beast, for a fight with him would be fatal.
"There he is,"
the husky guide nearly whispered, and she rushed out to meet him. The bear dropped his work and embraced the young human girl. He lifted her into the air, then kissed her firmly on the lips. Their carnal kiss forced a blush through Phelan that made her consider leaving the area to give them some privacy. When they broke, however, introductions made it impossible to escape. "This is Phelan."
"A pleasure to meet you,"
the bear said in a deep but kindly voice.
"I'm Orso."
"Happy to meet you," the hunter said, though she was still trying to decide if she really was. "Orso? She's from the village of the Misty Woods."
"Amazing,"
he said genuinely, his paw rubbing Cynthia's back affectionately as they spoke.
"You've come a long way."
"Well," Phelan struggled as her body blush failed to fade, "it's been, an eye-opening experience."
"Where are you going from here?"
the bear asked. "Don't know. I think that's why I'm here." The hunter tried to smile but was unable to force it.
"So, you're going to ask Polaris to guide you?"
The bear's features darkened slightly, causing a shiver of fear to ripple down Phelan's spine. "Baba Hulda brought me here," she said carefully, hiding her fear. "If she leads me to your brother and tells me to ask him questions, then I will."
"I see,"
he said with a nod of acceptance.
"Well, if the Baba wills it, then you will have no choice."
Phelan twitched. "What does that mean?"
"When the wise women speak,"
the great bear explained,
"we do as they say. Ignoring their words invites misfortune."
"Caused by them?"
"Sometimes,"
Orso stated somberly.
"Sometimes we bring it on ourselves. I've discovered it's generally best just to do what they say, though it's not always easy. I don't know if they cause the troubles or just warn us about them, but that question has driven them from more than one village."
Phelan nodded, remembering how many times she heard whispers of the witch when people were speaking of Asagi. Were it not for the potions she made, and her ability to midwife better than anyone the village had ever known, she would have been tied to a stake and set on fire long ago.
"Well,"
Orso finally broke the silence,
"I gotta get back to work."
"Can we help?" Cynthia asked as her smitten eyes begged to not be distanced from her one true love.
"That would be rude,"
Orso said with a sad smile. "Oh, yes," the girl said dejectedly, glancing at their guest. "Actually, I wouldn't mind a little labor," Phelan said as she removed her new crimson cloak and hung it on a low tree branch.
"Are you sure?"
the bear asked in surprise. "I was raised on hard work," she said, rolling up her sleeves. "I've been sitting on my arse for several days, and it's making me feel useless. I need to sweat a little."
"All right,"
the bear smiled, drawing an excited little squeal from their giddy companion. A couple hours of work in the field taught Phelan why Orso had been out in it alone. He swung his tools with the strength and precision of a dozen men, pausing periodically to smile at the blushing blonde girl who reddened and redoubled her efforts every time their eyes met. When the sun finally began to dip below the horizon, the announcement was made that the women should head back first, for appearances. An uncomfortably impassioned farewell left Phelan feeling awkward, but she felt better when Arthur formed out of a rustle in the bushes to accompany their walk back. Cynthia made a concerned sound, but when he received the attention from Phelan he was obviously seeking, she began to relax. "Can I pet him?" she finally asked as her curiosity began to beat out her fear. "I don't know," Phelan said as she looked at her wolf. "Arthur, this is Cynthia. Is it all right if she pets you?" He considered the girl for a long moment, which made her very uneasy. but he eventually brushed his head on her leg and allowed the stranger to run her hand over his fur. "He's so soft," Cynthia said with a confused rattle in her voice. "You expected him to be dirty?" "Well, yes," the blonde girl admitted. "Orso's fur gets dirty and knotted easily after a day in the field. He has to pull a very coarse brush through his fur to get it clean. I figured any creature with fur would have a similar problem." "Well, Arthur's special in a lot of ways," Falon said with an endearing smile. "Maybe this is just another of those ways." He wagged his tail at the praise and seemed to walk proudly, as if showing off for them. The girls both giggled at this, and Falon could not help but notice how light-hearted Arthur made her feel. As they walked, an introspective look came over Cynthia, and a contemplative quiet fell over their party. Finally, the blonde lion's mane stopped, and turned to face her close-cut companion. "Falon?" "Yes?" "Seeing as you're wearing pants, "They're comfortable and practical," Falon answered when the young woman hesitated. "I think women everywhere should be wearing them." "Oh, yes, but are you questing?" "Yes." "What for?" "I seek to free my father from the Lady of the Mist." Finally saying the line she had been practicing felt good, and she could not help looking a little smug. "I need to fix something, too. Do you think—" Cynthia bit her lip. Her courage was fading. "You want to go with me," the hunter finished for her. The farm girl nodded, and Falon studied her a little harder before she sighed. "Cynthia, I don't know where I'm going. My quest could take me anywhere. But it's bound to take you to an oracle or wise woman or someone who can fix things." "Well, maybe." "Then I need to go too." "Why?" "Because I have something I need to fix," Cynthia confessed. "Why don't you just ask your little bear brother?" "Because it's dangerous." Her eyes cast downwards as if shame was filling every inch of her. "And what he says doesn't always make sense." "Well, I can't just say yes," Falon protested. "What if my quest takes me out over the ocean or something? What if I'm charged with slaying a troll or a dragon, or I'm ordered to wrestle an ogre?" "Are you afraid?" "Of course I'm afraid." Falon's voice was rising as the stress of her travels boiled out of her. "Ever since I left home things have gone from weird to worse. I've been attacked by beasts and flying things and a fairy made of pure cold. I've jumped off a mountain and fallen sideways. I've lost my father, stumbled into a witch, and now I'm in some bizarre fairy tale where bears talk and maidens pine for them. I'm lost in the woods here. I don't know what's going to happen next." "I've been lost in the woods a long time too, Falon," Cynthia said with much more calm and sympathy than the hunter had managed. "If you'll let me come with you, well, maybe we can find our way together." The hunter looked away, trying to think her way out of this. A wet nose pushed against her hand, and soon she was stroking a soft head again. "See? Even he wants me to go with." "I'm not making pants for you," Falon said as another decision seemed to have been made for her. "No, that's okay," Cynthia blurted out in a gush of excitement. "I prefer girl clothes anyway." "You won't say that after you've clawed your way through brush and brambles." "Oh, well—" "Just please wait until we've actually talked to Pol, Falon almost begged. "You might change your mind once you know where I'm going." Cynthia practically skipped back to the cabin, much to Falon's dismay. It was clear to her that unless her instructions included a trip to the abyss of eternal torments, the overly cheerful girl would be coming with her. It did not feel right going into the woods with someone who was so unseasoned. Arthur was a wolf and could feed and care for himself. But a love-struck farm girl indentured house servant? She was likely to bring annoyance and grief beyond that which was already coming. When they reached their destination, a very large shadow loomed in the sitting room. Instantly, Cynthia stopped humming and her smile vanished. Shoulders hunched forward, eyes cast to the ground, she made very little noise around the new presence.
"Welcome back, girls,"
Mama Bear said with invincible cheerfulness.
"Please wash yourselves, then meet me in the kitchen."
"Yes, Mama," Cynthia said as she took Falon's hand and dragged her around back to a pump. "What was that?" Falon asked as Arthur lounged by the back door. That was Papa Bear. the blonde girl mumbled. Does he normally suck all the light out of a room like that? Only when he's irritated. Let me guess, Falon said as she began to pump water onto her companion's hands. That is more and more often lately. Yeah, Cynthia said as she shamelessly removed her top and began to sponge sweat away without noticing Falon's discomfort. I wonder if it has something to do with the coming winter. Maybe it has something to do with our arrival, Falon said as she made an effort not to look upon the blonde woman's healthy bosom. I don't think so, Cynthia commented as she paused to scrub. He's not normally unhappy to see Baba Hulda, but he's always in a mood towards the fall. But it's still summer, Falon pointed out. Yeah, well... Come on, Cynthia. Falon leaned forward, giving her companion a nickname and sing-songing her voice for extra digging power. Well, the farm girl hedged. Pa's angry with us. You endorse so? Uh-huh. Let me guess. It isn't proper, and it's just not done. The blonde girl nodded. I thought I was finally done with having this argument with overprotective fathers. The large blue eyes looked up at her, a sea of tears filling them. Don't worry, Falon assured her. I won my argument. That's why I'm here. It's tiresome, but I'm sure we could win this fight too. But you don't know him, Cynthia. Falon began, but then she let out a frustrated huff. Oh, just pump water for me. When they were done washing, they patted themselves dry and made their way to the kitchen where they had the task of preparing the evening meal. Falon had a difficult time keeping the annoyance of having to complete such a task from her features, and the looks Cynthia kept sending her said she was failing. The meal itself was an unsatisfying mixture of vegetables, heavy on the greens, and a large jar of honey. The hunter was disappointed, but perked up when 2 large salmon were brought into the kitchen. She also steadied herself with thoughts of that amazing honey that would more than likely make her forget where she was. Though she wished she could join Arthur in the wild for dinner, manners required her to put up with women's work until the meal was complete.
You do best not to speak to Pa today,
Mama Bear made a point of mentioning quietly while they worked in the kitchen. Why? Falon asked with more than a hint of her fiery temper. Will he maul me if I do?
I don't think so, dear. But for the sake of a little peace and quiet, this will likely be a mute meal.
Falon looked at Cynthia, who was making a great show of the task she had been assigned. Coward, the hunter thought. As you wish, she said to the lady of the house. Papa Bear had a scowl so deep it seemed permanently chiseled into his huge dark face. Joy seemed to flee before his disapproval, and no one spoke more than a few words for most of the meal. Orso and Cynthia did not look at each other, and the older son dared only glance at his mother twice. Baba Hilda and Mama Bear both sat with a stoic demeanor that said that all was well, but neither spoke. Falon began to wonder if the bear's wrath was going to be unleashed at any point before this was over. Her body began reacting to the possibility of danger, ready to move, ready to fight. It became increasingly difficult to remain sitting without twitching uncontrollably. Fortunately, her hunter's skills aided her once again in maintaining some of her bearing. Though she did not appreciate all of the greenery, the sweet honey aided her temper. Upon discovering this, she slathered it over everything. The fish helped the carnivore in her, but fish was always the poor man's meat in her mind. There had not been a lot of fish in her village, but she never developed a taste for it. It was only after she felt a stomach ache coming on that she stopped eating the honey and noticed the youngest member of the table. The bear cub had jet black fur with brilliant white stripes, giving him an almost skunk-like appearance. Along his face were several star-like patches, making him look like he belonged in a clear night sky. She discovered him staring at her with his dark eyes, and when they made eye contact, he grinned instead of looking away. "It's good to meet you, Mama Red Wolf," he said as his grin broadened.
Paul?
Mama Bear corrected.
Don't be rude.
Sorry, Mama. My name's Polaris,
he said without losing his cheer.
You can call me Pol, or Pol. It's nice to meet you.
I'm Falon, she said in the polite tone she had promised Cynthia she would use. The cub smiled, and the hunter found herself returning the gesture. He sure doesn't look like a creepy oracle, she thought as she considered him. He seems more like a naughty younger brother who's learned how the story ends and wants to ruin it for you.
Well, it's really neat that you're here,
He said, grinning uncontrollably.
I was just telling Pa all about you today. That's why he's in such a mood.
Falon looked over at the huge black bear who ignored her as he chewed with renewed hostility.
You need to know about your Pa, and Cynthia needs to know about her oven.
Paul! Both Cynthia and Mama Bear scolded at once.
What? It's true.
Oven? Yes, Falon said as she fought to keep the smirk from her face. It's true. If you can help me free my father from the mist, then I'll be forever grateful.
Oh, neat,
The cub commented like any other little boy.
I've never had anyone be forever grateful to me before. That's so cool.
Paul,
Mama said sternly.
you're going to need all of your strength if you are to answer our guests' questions.
Yes, Mama,
He said with a slightly dejected pout, and he set to shoveling dinner into his maw in an attempt to finish sooner. His mother made several more comments about his manners, and soon Falon actually found herself instinctively sitting up straighter and chewing more slowly. It is a strange thing for all of these changes to happen midsummer, Baba Hulda spoke quietly as she had finished her meal.
Yes,
Mama Bear concurred.
most quests begin in the springtime.
Maybe it's all my fault for leaving when I did, Falon thought to herself.
Well, whatever pebble caused this avalanche,
Hulda said, looking over at her young charge,
I am certain we will resolve many of our issues before winter.
I would hope so,
Mama Bear agreed.
I don't want to miss any beauty rest this year.